It's under both of them, like you can send both and it'll work.
Okay. Today's meeting of the Environmental Advisory Board is called to order on April 20th. Welcome, everyone. The members of the Environmental Advisory Board were appointed by the City Council, and we serve voluntarily. The board's objective is to provide citizen insight to the City Council and staff on environmental activities within and affecting the City of Clearwater. Agendas of today's meeting are on the wall at the entrance to the chambers. Please remember to turn off your cell phones and electronic devices. To ensure a complete record of the board's actions, we ask each individual who wishes to speak to clearly state their name and spell it for the clerk. Will members of the board and staff please introduce yourselves? We'll start to my left.
Marita Lynch.
Jared Leone.
John Thomas.
Glenna Wentworth.
Sarah Kessler, staff liaison.
Thank you very much. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of our last meeting. Board members, are there any changes or corrections?
I move approval of the minutes.
The only thing I noticed was maybe just a Scribner error. It was Silman, and then it's Stillman in the minutes. So it should be Silman, right, yeah. But it's Stillman throughout the minutes, and one time it's Silman at the beginning. So outside of that, those changes, all in favor, or second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay. Minutes are approved. We'll go on to our next item, citizens to be heard about items that are not on the agenda. If we have anyone who would like to speak, please come forward and state your name. You will have 3 minutes to speak on a subject that is not on today's agenda. There will be no discussion between the speaker and the board members until after the speaker has completed their comments.
Hi,
Thank you.
Brian Beckman.
Hello.
Okay, so I just wanted to follow up. I sent all of you an update on 2021 solar. So I won't repeat all the details in there, but I will highlight for everybody here. Now over 1,000 buildings that have solar in the city of Clearwater. That totals over an estimated 10 megawatts of capacity. That equates to about $1.8 million that gets saved annually in electricity bills, and about 23 million pounds of carbon, CO2, that gets prevented from going in our atmosphere by not generating that electricity. Two other things that I wanted to make note, I forget if I put in my email, that are part of those 2021 numbers. One of them is Trinity Church. They are going to have a very large installation. I think it's about 130 kilowatts. That is not yet installed, so it showed up in the permit data that I pull. It's going to be hopefully installed soon here in the next month or so. That's about 10 to 15 times the size of a regular home in capacity, just to put that in perspective. And the other one that was very interesting that I saw that was permitted in December was for the Clearwater Aquarium. Now, I do not know the capacity of that one. I could estimate that. But the dollar amount was over $1 million is what was in the permit. So it would expect that that is a very large system. And I don't know many details, but I thought I'd highlight a couple of those to you that are a bit out of the norm. The other thing, though, that I did want to highlight, trying to see how much more time that I have here, but is around solar prices. And so one of the things that I wanted to highlight to this group and to anybody else that would be able to learn is that you see a wide discrepancy of prices of what people are paying, what people are getting for proposals from installers, and what they end up paying. Anywhere between $2.25 a watt to over $4 a watt. And that is a huge difference. And that's largely whatever the installer can find that the buyer is willing to pay. And I would say is not informed well on being able to do comparisons. And I quote those figures, the dollar per watt is the most critical piece of information if you are looking at getting solar for you to have and get from your installer. And many proposals will not have that on it unless you ask for that piece of information. And you can do the math, of course, but many people do not. Last year, for instance, with the solar co-op, that $2.25 was roughly the price that was being paid out of that solar co-op. Just saw a friend of mine that got solar signed the contract about a month ago and paid $2.45. So in that range, but I'm seeing quotes that are well over $4 a watt that people are seeing. That is largely where they are getting proposed to them a financing deal. And there are large financing charges that are buried in that and many times not put well in front of the customer for them to be able to see. So it is something to highlight and something that I'll continue to try to collaborate with others. Sheridan, I don't know if she's going to talk about that here later, about opportunities to educate the public on how to be a good buyer when it comes to with solar. It's one of the big advantages of having a solar co-op, by the way, which we had last year in the county, which hopefully we will have again this year. But it can make significant difference by just having the consumer ask educated questions. So I did want to highlight that. Thank you.
Does anyone have any? Thank you very much, Brian. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, Brian, I have a question.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions if you don't mind too. Sure. Thank you.
The changes in the buyback program that the legislature, the power, what do you see the ramifications?
Well, it's not signed yet, so that's one thing to be clear, and so that's still, being considered, and a lot of pressure being put still on the governor not to sign that. So it'll be very interesting to see. From an industry perspective, you could expect that to have negative impacts on the industry. And it's going to be complicated. When you really read the language, it's going to be complicated in terms of how that affects any new buyer, any existing buyer. Some of us own solar here. How that affects us, it's complicated in the math that they put forward. So it's not an easy answer, but it'll have a negative impact. One of the things that I think of, though, is that hopefully buyers can become more educated. They don't have to buy as much solar as what they might think that what an installer might propose to them. And if you buy less solar, you can reduce the amount that you're selling back to the utility company, and therefore lower the impact on you and increase your payback period when you do that. So hopefully that'll become something if it gets passed. Who knows? I mean, I don't know where it's going to end up.
Does anyone else have any?
That's House Bill 741?
I'm not familiar with the numbers.
It is, yeah.
So it's not over. Yeah.
I was curious if the price difference could be attributed to people buying outside of the co-op, or if that didn't matter. You said from $2.25 to over $4. Were the people were you seeing those quotes for over $4? People that weren't within the co-op.
If you participate in the co-op, there is a generally set price that's given. Now it can vary based upon equipment. So what I saw from the nonprofit that runs the co-op, has run it here historically, Solar United Neighbors. I saw two different price points depending upon the equipment that you selected. Equipment meaning the type of panels, the type of inverters. So that would vary the price slightly. I think one might have been $2.15 or $2.20. The other one may be 5 or 10 cents higher, but it's still in that range. And then the question again becomes the financing. And so people have to make that determination. And, installers will come with their financial partner, that's behind the scenes, to propose a financing option. That many times is not the best option for a homeowner. It may look, one of the problems is that it looks very attractive from an interest rate standpoint, like maybe 1%, 1 to 2%. But when if you investigate the terms, many times you're paying thousands of dollars of charges. Imagine, picture yourself buying a mortgage, getting into a mortgage, and you've got to pay huge points or something like that. It's these buried fees, and they're stretching out the loan to many times 25 years. So it may look slightly favorable compared to your utility bill when you look at $1 per month, but you're setting yourself up for a long-term agreement, and there are ways that you could have saved more money in comparison to someone that's paying cash.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like as the solar industry kind of proliferates, there could be some more bad actors or more people that, just like with other appliances in your house, sell you the same appliance, and it's a lot more because of financing or other things.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of options
Right.
in those other examples, and so this is even more complicated, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Is there somewhere that people can go to find out more in terms of making sure they pay the right amount for their solar?
Yeah, I mean, so Solar United Neighbors is a resource. They have one of their pages that I get referred to, I referred others to. I'd like it to see it go further in really calling out what's a good price, and things from these finance charges to really, expose those more. I liken it to like truth in lending practices, and I think that it should be much more evident to the buyer what it is that they're seeing in the proposal.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you for your information. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about anything that is not on the agenda today? All right, we'll move on to new business then. We, I guess, will not be having a presentation from our city manager, John Jennings.
No, he's not available today.
Okay, and presentation about stormwater improvements on Cleveland Street. We are also striking out there.
Also not available today.
All right, well, it looks like we'll be moving right on then. Let's see, old business, sustainability program updates. Sheridan, come on down. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. So I think it would be just kind of nice to keep you guys up to date, probably at each meeting with just what we've been working on. So the first, I think when we last discussed Synergistic, I don't think it had been approved yet. Thankfully, it has been approved. And we are working very closely with the company every single day. So where we're at right now with it is Synergistic is currently interviewing for an energy specialist. That's their position. That will be solely for the city of Clearwater, however. So it's a Synergistic employee, but they do nothing but work on city of Clearwater facilities and projects. And myself and the city's building and maintenance superintendent, we're sitting in on the interviews to make sure that the personality of the person really matches with the building and maintenance team that we have and the expectations that we have for the program. So Synergistic has collected all the electricity, water, natural gas, and propane usage for all of our medium to large facilities. And they are in the process of creating an energy baseline for each of those facilities. As part of our contract with them and to meet our green print goal, we have drafted an energy conservation policy, and it's currently awaiting approval by the city manager. In this policy, it states the city will aim to reduce energy consumption in its facilities 20% by 2027. So our 5-year contract, we want to reduce it 20%. So that goal exceeds what was originally included in green print. So I think we had a 10% reduction goal over the next 5 years. So it's great that we'll have a policy that will help us even double that. Are there any questions on that? We're still in the early phases of that program. The key component will be getting that energy specialist, because once they finish the baselines is when they really want to go in and start implementing so that we can see those savings.
So this energy savings goal, does that have to be approved by anybody besides people who already approved it?
So it has to be approved by the city manager, but because it only affects city facilities, it does not need to go to city council.
And you're calling it a policy, you call it a policy, so it's, okay, so, and it's for the work of Synergistic in the next 5 years, basically what they're gonna achieve.
Yes and no. So it lays out, it doesn't lay out what's expected from Synergistic, because that's in our contract. Rather, it lays out what's expected of the city and our employees in our facilities. And what it does is more sets kind of guideposts. So for instance, there are different categories of employees, but there are things that we expect all employees to follow. There are things that we expect our leadership staff to follow. There are things that we expect our administrative staff to follow. And there are things that we expect our building and maintenance staff to follow. And so a lot of these things, it's great to just have clarity on what our expectations are. They're not outlandish by any means. So for instance, we have a section that concentrates on HVAC, and we have requirements of what the thermostat will be in the winter and what it will be in the summer. So for instance, I want to make sure I don't get it mixed up. In the winter, it's expected that it will be between, I think, 67 to 70 degrees. is what is expected to be the temperature. And in the summer, it's expected to stay between 70 to 73 degrees. So for all of this, I think we can say that's really reasonable temperatures. Generally, studies have shown that people like to stay around 72 degrees, and that's great because that's optimal for our buildings too. So that's just an example of what the policy will be covering. So it covers things like HVAC, how quickly we'll identify and repair water leakage, and so on. It goes through the different categories of that.
Excellent.
And what we'll be doing once it's approved is disseminating it to all the departments and actually printing it and putting it in our main facilities too, so that all staff can see it. We'll probably create a one-pager too that's not as scary looking as a policy and is easier to understand. Awesome. So next I wanted to give an update on EV charging stations. So we intend to start by purchasing 2 charging stations for our Garden Avenue garage. We have one there right now, but it's very old. It actually doesn't even appear on any of the charging station networks when you Google, like, where are there charging stations in my area. So we're going to be replacing that one and adding another. We are also planning on extending the charging stations to the 3rd floor so that we can begin including EVs into our parking fleet. So our parking fleet stays on the 3rd floor of that garage. However, the garage will need a new transformer to add the additional capacity needed for more charging stations. It can only handle 2 right now. So we're working with Duke to schedule a site visit and see what that would entail and what that will cost. Which is, I think, depending on the parking garage, what we might see moving forward is just, if we have a large number of fleet vehicles there, we may need to get a new transformer if we're going beyond like 2 to 4 charging stations. Once the municipal services building garage is finished with its retrofit process, which is going to happen around October, hopefully it'll be finished up. We also intend to install 4 charging stations in that garage. 2 will be located on the 1st floor for employees to use, and then it will also be open to the public outside of business hours. Another 2 will be located on the 3rd floor where a majority of our fleet vehicles sit. And then the request for proposals for this retrofit also included provisions to make the garage both solar ready and EV capable, because we anticipate that we will need to expand the charging stations on the 3rd floor to eventually 10 to 12 charging stations for the number of vehicles that are in that.
Which station is that? Which station is that?
That is our municipal services building garage. It's at 640 Pierce Street, kind of in between our municipal services building and our main police station.
Yeah.
Are there any questions on that?
I had a couple.
Mm-hmm.
The Garden Avenue or the Garden Avenue parking,
Mm-hmm.
the one that's there, are you replacing that one?
We're replacing it.
Okay.
Yes.
And then is there plans for other city facilities like libraries and rec centers to have these as well?
There will be. We're phasing it. We're kind of creating, and then we're in the midst of a planning process, but we're creating like a phase. So right now we're very much focused on being able to achieve our fleet transition. So we're looking at where are our fleet vehicles mainly housed. A lot of them are housed at that, we call it the MSB garage, as well as our Garden Avenue garage. And then other complexes like our public utilities complex, our solid waste complex, and what we, our parks and beautification complex. Those are the ones that we're looking at for like phase 2.
So these are primarily for city?
Primarily
use?
for city, yeah. For public charging, we are looking at some like libraries and rec centers. What we're seeing is that majority of charging actually happens overnight and at home. So what I am interested in doing, in addition to looking at offering charging for the public at these facilities, is more looking at EV capable and ready ordinances for multifamily to make sure that if majority of charging happens at home and at night, those who live in condos or apartments aren't alienated from that process.
Sure.
Because I think that's where the leverage really lies. So it's kind of a combination platform.
Yeah, I guess like in Dunedin, I see a lot of the charging stations at like the Hale Rec Center and the library there, and they're always in use, it seems like. So just
Good.
that it makes sense for the city to kind of provide those at the same kind of similar facilities. So.
Yeah, and so many, I guess they call them behind the fence and in front of the fence. We're going to be looking at where we're installing for fleet, where are those locations also capable of servicing the public when they're not,
Sure.
if they don't have to be used by fleet all the time, or if they're in an accessible location for the public.
So total EV stations by the end of this year that the city will have?
We hope, so that would be, we hope 6, and that's just at our 2 parking garages that we were talking about right there.
Okay. And that will be a total of how many for the city?
City-owned would be 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right.
Any more questions on that?
Yeah, do you have, well, I was noticing that, in the virtual, presentation on Monday night, that St. Pete and Largo are both have ordinances, EV-ready ordinances for new construction. St. Pete has it for municipal and citywide now, I think, and Largo has it for city. It requires it for this ordinance for EV readiness for city, for municipal, and they're working on one for the entire city. This is for new construction. Is that in your pipeline?
So
at
we
all?
have given a brief presentation to our planning and development department. At the time, we looked more towards the city of Orlando. It was a few months back before Largo had their draft ordinance available. And they were interested in it. I think it was just determining staff capacity at that time. We have a few new members of that department, so the conversation is continuing on about it. And we were looking at making the ordinance for off-street parking. So for facilities that have any kind of large off-street parking, having a percentage be EV capable and a percentage be EV installed. But it's still very much in the discussion phase. It does help to have Largo and St. Pete give momentum to that and have examples for sure.
New construction would be the time to do it, certainly, you at least get that, at least get that going, I would say, because there's new construction going on all the time. And people with electric cars are, they want to live in a place where they've got, EV charging stations.
Yes.
Well, would the city be looking to incentivize current owners or offering breaks on permitting or something like that to help encourage adding these chargers at home for residents? That could be helpful too, in addition to just an ordinance, but allowing people to have the ability to make those changes and have money to help them do that, or a lack of permit, or not a lack of permit, but just cut down on the permitting costs or something like that.
Yeah, it's been briefly part of our conversation. I know the last time that this discussion happened with council, the mayor was very interested in, I think he used the term a carrot versus a stick, and looking at incentives. I think when it comes to single-family homes, it depends on the home, but many of them already have the capability of very easily either doing a trickle charge with a level 1, or they have the proper outlet that a level 2 could be easily installed. But for the multifamily and commercial areas, that might be where we can discuss it. And again, it just comes back and forth of, do we want to pursue an ordinance, or what incentives could possibly exist? There's always a balance, because whether it's with solar or EV charging stations or other things, if you incentivize permitting too much, it all just becomes, like, you can't fast track anything if everything is fast tracked.
Sure.
On that one. So just determining what suits the city best.
I just have a question. So I think you might have said this and I didn't quite catch it. Will there be, or is there any for regular citizens to plug in their electric car anywhere in Clearwater?
So there are non-city owned.
City owned.
So the only one is at Garden Avenue right now. But there are, if you look on the maps, there are charging stations throughout downtown even. There's one even next to where we are at in City Hall that's by like the Nova 4 building. So there are different locations that individuals can charge across the city. They're not on city-owned facilities though.
And there's no plans to do any, except for the ones that you outlined.
For now, we're concentrating on these 2 parking garages in our first initial phases.
And one last, I guess it's maybe more about electric vehicles than charging stations themselves, but I saw in Dunedin, I think it was like 10,000 golf carts are registered there. Those are electric vehicles. I know the city has had allows the golf carts on specific streets. Is that something that you feel that most residents know, that they could, rather than drive a car, could drive a golf cart for some of their travel within the city?
I'm not too familiar with, I should look it up, but the city's policies with golf carts, and I would need to just clarify it before I say anything. I will say I live in Oldsmar where golf carts are allowed, and it is definitely a balance. Some people use their golf cart in place of a trip that they would have made in their car, and some people still just use them for leisure. Using them for leisure isn't as ideal because you're still consuming electricity, and it would be better to be either biking or walking in place of that. But I have not had the discussion about golf carts.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if there was, I thought maybe this would be the right time at least to mention as far as electric vehicles, but we already, I feel, have some policy in place to allow them in a lot of the city, so maybe we can look at maybe promoting that to let people know that they can either buy and register their golf carts or use them different places to get around here too.
Okay,
So.
I can gain more familiarity with our planning and development department about what we allow and what we don't, and what areas we would want to do that.
Yeah, I think that might work with some of the other aspects of green print in terms of trying to localize traffic or reduce your carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, if it makes sense, sometimes people just use them more leisurely, but again, just thank you.
No problem. The next update I wanted to provide is our Earth Month recap. We're in the midst of it, so some of it is a recap and some of it will be ongoing for programs that we have in the next week or two. So we have had and continue to have a number of Earth Day related campaigns and events this month that we've been sharing on social media and through press releases. We have a new sustainability specialist who's awesome, and she's been concentrating on a lot of this as her kind of first initiation to the city. She's also been, in addition to engaging the public, working on internal and working with city staff and finding ways to engage them with the sustainability programs that are happening this month. So as such, we've created the opportunity for staff to win a sustainability swag bag if they just attend and share about one of the many events that are happening in the city for Earth Day, which is a fun thing. This past Monday, as Glenna mentioned, I joined 6 other Pinellas County municipalities in the Suncoast Sierra Club's virtual Earth Day event. We discussed each of our cities' sustainability plans and progress that has been made on achieving each of our individual goals this past year. And still to happen is Clearwater's tree giveaway, sponsored by our Parks and Rec and our Planning and Development departments. And following that, we have our free paper shredding and recycling event, which is sponsored by our solid waste department on April 30th.
What was the second one? I didn't catch that.
The free paper shredding
No,
and
before
recycling?
that.
The Arbor Day
Arbor Day.
tree giveaway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's one of my
happening this
favorite
Saturday.
days of the year.
Yeah. So this Saturday for that,
That's right.
which is always an exciting one. And finally, I wanted to give you guys a preview of a really fun educational event we are working on for the summer. So we are in the midst of planning a series with our library system to focus on youth education and kids. And it's called Green Guardians. And so it's an 8-week series, and each week we'll focus on a different section of green print, because there are 8 sections in green print. And we'll be doing it at a different library each week, so we'll be rotating through the libraries. So for the first week, we are focusing on solar power, and this fits into our green energy and building section of green print. The kids will be in this library, and they'll get to see the sun up close using a special telescope that one of our librarians has with a lens where they can actually see very closely the sun without hurting their eyes. And they will get to build their own solar oven using pizza boxes. We're going to show them how to do that and make s'mores. They will then get to hear from the Sierra Club and Solar United Neighbors about how solar power can be harnessed and used to power a building. So we're trying to make it all a connection for them. For the second week, this is I'm most excited for, but it's probably the most intensive. So we're focusing on transportation. So for green print, the section's transportation. When I was thinking about this one, I was like, I don't know how well they're going to receive EVs. I can't have them test drive an electric vehicle. I don't know how we're going to do a public transit or anything like that. And I sometimes feel really guilty, especially with kids, about wanting to encourage them to ride their bikes more when it's very unsafe to do so. So what we decided to do is have a fun bike safety rodeo. And it's going to happen in the parking lot. Hopefully, we're working with permitting of one of our libraries. We're going to make a very interactive course that they'll be able to bring either a bike, scooter, or skateboard to. and they'll get to go through the course and learn like proper etiquette to use, as well as things that they should be mindful of and looking for. We really want to draw kids in. It's in our North Greenwood neighborhood, so we also are going to be working with a really awesome guy out of Plant City who brings a giant hamster wheel out, and you can run in the hamster wheel or walk in the hamster wheel, and it grinds up ice and it makes an icy. So it's in the summer, it's going to be a hot day, and I thought it would be another fun lesson for kids about another form of energy, it's not solar power, that you can use as opposed to like electricity or some fossil fuel to make something. So we're actively developing that event, and it's going to be a really good one. We're looking forward to it. It'll also be a little crazy, so I just want to make sure we're good to go. The third week, we're going to focus on nature and wildlife, and so we are going to have speakers from local native plant and wildlife groups to introduce the kids to some of Tampa Bay's native species. We're going to be doing 2 fun crafts that also benefit wildlife. The first is that they're going to be making their own stickers that they can put on their glass at home to make sure birds can see and identify that it's glass, so it's bird friendly. And then they're also going to be making butterfly puddlers, so things that butterflies and bees can land on to drink, because they can't generally do that in like a bird bath or something without the risk of falling in. For the 4th week, we are concentrating on water conservation. So we are going to be joined, we're going to have more of a focus, I think, on marine life on this one, in addition to some stormwater and watershed health. We're first going to have someone from Sea Turtle Trackers come in, and she's going to talk about what she does with that nonprofit, introduce them to the loggerhead sea turtle and the many challenges that species faces, what they do, and how the kids can help. Following that, we're going to have a presentation from Keep Pinellas Beautiful on watershed health, and they're going to learn about how really everything we do affects our watersheds, including how we treat our property and whatever goes down a storm drain. And then following that, we are going to introduce them to the city's storm drain mural program. We're going to show them some examples, and then we're going to bring in big sheets of paper and have the kids design their own storm drain mural. And hopefully the idea is that they'll want to actually implement that design with their parents or community group in the future. They will also, Keep Pinellas Beautiful will be providing take-home cleanup kits for each kid so that they can go home and do their own like street cleanup with their parents. 5th week, there's only 8, so 5th week we're concentrating on waste reduction. We're going to have the city's solid waste specialist do an introduction to what recycling and composting is and what it means to donate something, because depending on the age, they may or may not be familiar with the concept of donating. We are going to have a fun relay race where at the end there are 4 categories where they can donate their item, they can recycle it, they can compost it, or they can throw it away. So they will all do the relay race, and then at the end we'll go through each container and talk about if it should be in here, if it shouldn't, and why not. And then at the end they're going to do a craft where they will repurpose bottle caps by painting them and making them into a necklace, or we were kind of thinking actually it would be a medal for completing like the race. The 6th week is going to concentrate on local food. We will have a presentation on gardening and how they can grow food at their home or in their neighborhoods. We have a local chef who's going to come in and prepare a dish using ingredients that they can grow at home or in a community garden. So all the ingredients are things that can grow in Florida. I think she's interested in doing a mango salsa, and everything, as long as you have a mango tree, you can grow at home. And then we're also going to do an activity to calculate how far store-bought food can travel to their dinner plate. So the hope here is that we'll be encouraging them to try growing food, but then also try purchasing more local food. The 7th week is going to focus on green economy. So we will be setting up 5 innovation stations with professionals from the art, animal, stormwater, solid waste, and research fields. The kids will get to spend 10 minutes at each station and learning about the profession, and then they'll complete at each station either an activity or a craft that really helps, solidify what this profession actually does, and how using different either businesses or industries we can create a better world. And then in the final week, it's going to focus on education and awareness. So we're going to have them first create their own superhero masks. And then we're going to tell them to put on their masks, and they now have superpowers to create a solution to a problem in the future. And so we're going to read them a book about a kid who has the same experience, and then they're going to create a presentation either through using a poster or a PowerPoint on what their future solution is going to be and the impact it will have. And then we'll go around and share it with the group. So we're still in the planning phases for all of those. We are really excited to be working with the library system and youth programs. Do you have any questions on that one?
Just disappointed I'm not a kid anymore.
Well, it's open. We hope that the parents will stick around. So we're saying, to families, and we really want to encourage the parents to stay around too. Especially, on a number of these, there are programs or nonprofits that we can plug the parents into to have further action.
I commend you on trying to build the next generation of environmentalists. It's so important.
It's the most fun too.
Yeah.
So fun and creative.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity for all the.
Yeah, anytime you work with librarians, it's going to be fun and creative, I've learned. So I'm trying to now weave them into all my projects somehow.
Absolutely.
Before you went into the programs for the children, you mentioned about the program with the mayors and the sustainability coordinators. How would you rate us compared to others? And are there things that you saw happening in some of the other cities or communities that perhaps we should be engaged with as well?
Yeah, it's hard to do a ranking. I don't know if I'll.
It's not a ranking.
I don't know if I'll do that one. I'm trying to think back on all the different presentations. It was great to see so many of the things that connect us and that we're working on as a region. I think there are just different instances of things where a certain city might be more advanced where we're at now, and there are some ways we're more advanced. I will say Largo's EV ordinance in St. Pete was definitely a huge win, and is really great to see and something that we have yet to do. I think, I don't know if I could rank us.
Well, I'm not ranking. Where are we breaking new ground as opposed to
Where are
the
we
others?
breaking new ground? Okay, so what I will say
Kids,
is,
perhaps?
what'd you say?
With the kids?
We didn't even talk about this program
All right,
at that
okay.
one. I will say for us, a lot of where we are gaining grounds and what I've been concentrating a lot of on this last year is a more internal approach. So where can we demonstrate success within the city, at city facilities and city buildings and the city's fleet, so that we can gain more experience from a staff perspective, gain more buy-in from our residents and our elected officials, and then really walk the talk when it comes to engaging residents. I think we've done an excellent job having these projects happen simultaneously, both with Synergistics, our solar feasibility study that's still happening and in the midst, concentrating on our green fleet, to really demonstrate that the city is trying to be a leader. And what I think we will need to do in the near future, in addition to finishing these projects or continuing them on but finishing them, is engaging the public to do the same. And so by hiring a sustainability specialist who concentrates on education and outreach, that will really help me work with her to then create these programs or these opportunities or these campaigns to engage the public and to engage businesses. So in summary, I think we're really starting to do a really great job internally, and we intend to then push that outwards too and start engaging with our residents and businesses and industries more.
Thank you.
At this moment, we don't have solar on a single municipal building,
We do not.
but there are plans in the works.
So our solar feasibility study, it should have been done. They are having some staff shortages, as with every kind of industry. They've had some turnaround, but we still have our main person working with that firm who's overseeing it. He just lost his second into command, so it's just taking a little longer. And so the plans are, when we get the reports back, and again, the solar feasibility study covers over 50 facilities, we will then be able to use the recommendations in those plans for every facility, be they the kilowatt hours that could be offset by that solar array, and the internal rate of return of that system, so how financially beneficial is it for us, to then select the best candidates for solar. We are We are looking at different funding opportunities. And there is discussions happening with our city manager about using some of the ARPA funds for solar. And then also we have applied to a Department of Energy grant to hopefully fund 5 of our first installations. And we're waiting to hear back on if we receive that.
I think we're building a new fire station, and we have a new roof going on, I think, at the beach. There's a solar plan for that.
There is solar plan for it, yes.
And is solar planned for the new fire station, the one that's?
So the fire station 46 on the beach, solar is being
That
planned
one,
for that.
I know.
There's a new fire station 47
Yeah.
by Clearwater High School.
High school, yeah.
Still in the design phase, but solar is very much in the conversation and being included in part of the design.
Okay. What about the new city hall? Any word on that? Like, is there?
It's still super early in the,
No, the location's not been,
I'm pretty sure the location has been solidified.
okay.
And it's to the south of the MSB building, or Municipal Services building, that lot,
Okay.
in front of the really pretty mural that we have there.
There's no RFPs that have been put out yet?
I don't know if it's gone out. I do believe one has been created. So I don't know if it's been disseminated yet, but there is an RFP that has been created, and it does include that the expectation is, in addition to the downtown plan, that the firm will look at green print and incorporating the major components of green print into the design.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, I was just curious about, does that, I mean, I assume that happens with any new construction that the city is going to engage in, is that green print is going to be, a part of, is going to be part of that. It's going to inform that process.
It is part of our work order template for all of our consultants. So everything that goes out of engineering has green print listed in that they will consult that depending, like, whatever project they're doing. If it's utilities, putting new pipe in, like, still,
Yeah.
it still is part of all of the work orders that go out of engineering.
Perfect.
And we do have it, what's a little unique, at least for the RFP that I've seen, is, so in the scoring criteria, the downtown plan and green print are worth a certain amount of points to show that those aspects of the plan have been incorporated. So the companies that bid, that very much goes into their scoring system. So it has just a little more weight.
Yeah. On Monday night also, there was a discussion, it was pretty brief about, but there was a question about, like, reporting progress on the sustainability programs in each of the municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an interesting discussion about that. And you said that our new sustainability specialist is looking, is developing something on the website, on the sustainability website, that is going to report progress on Green Print 2.0.
Yeah, so I think what you saw with all of the sustainability people on that call is we're working on it, but it's not there yet. It seems like was all the answers from every municipality. What we're doing is we're currently looking at other cities, and it doesn't necessarily have to be sustainability related, but other cities with interactive websites that actively report data to see what are some of the best case examples that we really like, as well as what data do we want to be provided. So the idea is that it would be we'd have to work with our IT department. I don't know if it could be in real time, I won't say that, but at least, if not at the least quarterly, an update on certain metrics that we would determine. So do we want to report, now we don't calculate our greenhouse gas emissions quarterly, but we could do on the latest annual greenhouse gas inventory and emissions. We could do, as Brian reported, the number of solar arrays within the city of Clearwater or the number of kilowatt hours that they've achieved. We could do the number of gallons of water consumed in the city, and so on. So we're trying to determine what metrics do we want to be actively reporting on with the new website.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions for Sheridan? Any questions from the audience? All right, thank you very much, Sheridan. All right, moving on. guess we'll go to the director's report.
I don't have anything to report, well, no, I'll say this. I have to create the agenda about a month, close to a month before our next meeting. So if you have ideas for the next meeting, make sure you send those to me about a month before our next meeting. So I can do the agenda.
Good to know.
All right. And I guess we'll go on to our next item, board members to be heard. We have a few things from our board members today, I believe. So we'll start. I guess we can start with Marita.
First of all, Sheridan, thank you, because I believe that was old business, what you asked about the solar capability for the city, the update on that. That was actually old business. So thank you for that update. It probably should have been in there somewhere, but in any event, a couple of things. Another old business, or a follow-up for me, was that I was supposed to write a resolution about Ready for 100, and I think you have that in front of you. I wrote a cover letter for it, and I wrote the resolution. I based that resolution on both what the county had adopted and what Dunedin and the other cities have adopted. So it's there for your review. I think that to ask you to look at it and review it tonight is probably too short a time frame to do
It was
that.
emailed, so
Yeah,
everybody
yeah, we
had
had
it
a
copy of it.
before
We had it for a
before the
week.
meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for putting the time in to put these, both the ordinance, or the resolution and the letter together. I really appreciate it. And I guess I can start discussion on this, and then we can have everybody else pitch in. I think this is good. I am curious, and I did like that you did tailor it to our city with the green print and the aspects of it. I think I had noted this last time, and I'll note it again today for our discussion, that the city owns a gas system, and I think that this is written around that enough, but I wanted to, and maybe Sheridan or someone else can answer I guess the policy, where the policy meets the road or the electric vehicle, whatever it may be, but with the city owning a gas utility, would the city be able to accomplish Ready for 100 as you know, with what we've indicated here in the resolution? And I don't know if you're familiar with the resolution at all. It's like Marita said, it's similar to ones that have been passed in other communities.
Yeah, and I did read it, and I'm just trying to get more familiar with it. I do have it up. In my understanding, for just the end goal, natural gas is not included in what would be considered a clean energy that applies to the Ready for 100.
And so we can advance this without concern that would be a concern.
So it would not be accepted as a form of energy that could be.
Right.
So in that 100%, natural gas cannot be part of that. So it would be an issue.
Right, it would be an issue. Yeah, because the city owns a gas plant. I think part of the motivation for writing this is to say how important 100% clean energy is, whether or not we think it is something that will be
It's
accepted
achievable.
by the council.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, that we're also, like Sheridan had said about the 20% by 2027, this would be, I think, much more stringent and that's what Synergistic said is a 20% reduction in 5 years.
So I think we have two conversations happening. One is
Okay.
energy reduction, and
Right.
one is whatever energy we do consume comes from a renewable source.
Okay.
Certainly reducing the amount of
Yeah, I
energy.
think I'm crossing a couple of wires there.
Yeah, certainly reducing the amount of energy we use makes it easier to figure out how we're going to supplement the remaining energy with renewable. But they're
But
not.
because we use natural gas, we'll never be able to be 100% renewable.
If you sign on to in my understanding, if you sign on to and the Sierra Club may be able to advise, but if you sign on to a Ready for 100 goal, it's clean energy, what they would define as clean energy, and natural gas is not included in that.
But it would be clean energy for electricity, to generate electricity. That's what this is about. It's not about what natural gas. It's not in conflict with Clearwater gas. As I
Okay, so
understand it,
maybe,
it really would not be
maybe I
in
don't,
conflict.
so in the city boundaries, it would just be the electricity that's
Yeah,
used?
this is about 100% of all electricity consumed in the city. So it's only about electricity.
If it's only about electricity, then natural gas would not
It would
be
just
an
not,
issue
would not be an issue. Natural gas
until it
doesn't
comes from
generate
whatever
electricity.
Duke is consuming, whatever amount Duke is consuming natural gas wise to provide that electricity.
Correct.
But I also don't know, do you have any insight on that? Sorry, is it okay for me to ask?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, certainly, please, Brian, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to get some clarity. I apologize for all of the,
Yeah, and I'm probably, I think, repeating what you might have already heard, because I did read the proposed resolution, and I'm familiar with the resolutions of the other cities, and
Yeah.
it does focus solely on electricity. Excuse me, it does not talk about other forms of energy.
okay,
You know, gas is just one other. There's also, it does not talk about transportation, just for example. So it focuses in on electricity only.
okay.
Yeah, so
Great,
that's
thank,
what
yeah,
I would say.
okay, thank you. So I guess in regard to that and with those stipulations, then even owning a gas utility, the city could achieve 100%.
If it is just
Because it would
about,
just be on electricity. the
if
use
it
of
is
its
just about electricity, that could be possible. Now, I do remember when we had Dave Silman come in and give a presentation, some of that conversation did include transportation, so it might be just good to just really get clarity and make sure that whatever we're signing on for is only going to be expected to be electricity.
Here's what's, let me read it to you, it's just a sentence. It is the goal and policy of the city that 100% of all electricity consumed by city operations be clean energy by 2040, and that at least 50% of such electricity be clean energy by 2030.
If it is just the electricity, then I think that's not.
So that's something
in
that the city
conflict.
could achieve.
Yes. Now, if you were to change in any way that word electricity to be energy, that's where we would be in conflict.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
great, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great then. I'm glad to have the clarity on that.
Yeah, me
This
too.
is something that we can move forward and it's something that the city can achieve, so. Does anyone else have anything?
I
just
think
that there's-
there was just a correction made
Yeah.
in what we
Yeah.
provided about, referred to county in the first item under the now where they're fours.
Right,
And in the second one, it also had a county, it should be city.
right.
Okay.
Countywide,
Yes.
citywide.
Exactly, should be citywide.
All right.
And I guess I'm not clear as to how this relates to the city manager's, 20%. Is that, a step towards this? And, do we need to at least take a step forward? I think Green Print outlines, really what the goals are. But, the city manager has put forth this policy, and, is that the first step towards, implementation and achieving the goals in Green Print? And I don't know, I guess I question, do we really need a resolution to supplement Green Print? Or is the city manager's first step enough? So I just throw that out for a question I have. Maybe I don't understand the two and the relationships between the two, not having gone through the city manager's policy.
Thank you for some more added clarity.
I
Sharon.
need my
Thank you.
steps, so we're good. So the 20% reduction by 2027, I'm trying to distinguish the two. That's only for city facilities, and it does not include anything that we would provide as a public service. So any of our wastewater or water treatment operations, any of our natural gas distribution, and I think that would be the main exceptions. From what I'm understanding, for the Ready for 100 resolution would be community-wide, so throughout the entire boundaries of the city. It includes electricity that would be, correct me if I'm wrong, both city, residential, business, and industrial. Is that correct, or is it just for the city itself?
I think it's just for the city. Brian?
It's by,
Sorry, Brian.
for the whole community by 2050.
So I don't think I paid close enough attention to what it was written, but typically, there's two sets of goals. There's one set of goals that's for city operations. So again, still focused in on electricity only, but it's for city operations. That's usually a nearer date.
Right.
So for most of the other cities, it's either 2030 or 2035, and maybe with an interim goal. And then for citywide, which would include all those elements that you mentioned, that would be a separate goal with separate dates.
Which is here, yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Which I think, I know you had that one. I forget if you had the city operations dates. But that's typically, when we show them in a grid form for all the different cities in the county now, there's two sets of dates for operations and then for city-wide.
Right, and it's separated out here.
Great.
Operations is 100% by 2040 and 50% by 2030. And citywide is 100% by 2050.
Got it, okay.
But I don't see, can I just make a comment? I don't see that this resolution is exclusive to Greenprint. I think they can both coexist.
Oh, yes. So Greenprint, it doesn't have a strategy that says the city will pass a Ready for 100 resolution. But in the goals laid out in Greenprint calls for a greater inclusion of renewable energy in the electricity that the city, both municipalities and residential business and industrial consume. So in that way they align. Going back to just how the two differ slightly, that 20% reduction in just city facilities is just energy efficiency. Has no provisions for renewable energy.
That's synergistic.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just efficiencies.
Yes, but just to help with John's point on how are the two different. So they can complement one another, but they're not really in the same realm outside of having something to do with electricity.
Yeah, I guess when you start to look at facilities such as wastewater treatment plants and, water distribution systems that require energy, what are the useful life of those facilities that we have now? And, if the useful life takes us to 2065, for example, does it make sense to make these kind of what could be wholesale changes by 2050? I guess I don't know enough.
Yeah, and maybe that's a discussion to be had. I will say, in my understanding of the resolution like this, it's very much, we want to work with the utility to achieve this. So it's not necessarily on-site solar, it's a blend, like how can we find more opportunities for on-site solar within the city boundaries, but also a lot of that workload will be the utility. I will say Duke has its own goals. Duke has a carbon neutral goal by 2050, which can be very complementary. It is a little different in that it's not saying it will only use renewable energy. It's saying whatever emissions it does produce, it will find a way to either offset or sequester in some way. So there is promise in that Duke already has pretty great goals. They're not exactly the same, but they're not in conflict with one another. So I think to fulfill the greater community resolution, it would be just the city really needing to work with other municipalities and also the utility provider to make sure that we can meet that 100% goal in the end.
So there are three parts to Greenprint. The first is the energy efficiencies, just cut down on the energy usage. That's one way to reduce our energy usage through energy efficiencies. The second one is to do with third parties, like with Duke, because we have a contract with Duke, but I believe to generate 40% of our electricity.
Correct. So we've subscribed to have 40% of our electricity come from their off-site solar arrays.
Right. By what date?
So it's a slow, they're rolling it out.
Right.
It's as they build the systems. The first system was being built in an area called Bay Trail. It did sustain some damage, I think, from a recent tropical storm, and so they're getting it back online, but they are trying to launch it, I think, within a few months. And so we'll have some of our accounts that we've subscribed start at that time, and then as the other systems are built, we'll have 100% of what we're subscribed to come
Right.
online.
So maybe within 10 years, we
Oh,
should
yeah,
have,
I mean, within, I think, 4 years, we
we
could
should
see
have
that.
40% of our electricity coming from renewables through third party.
For just the city,
And that's just for the city.
for just the municipal
Right,
consumption, yeah.
that's right. And then the third way is to have, solar, have solar arrays, own solar arrays.
Yes, and I will say Duke's program, they have a municipal carve-out, and they have a large business carve-out, they have a small to medium and residential carve-out, and they have a low-income carve-out. So that program where we have already subscribed to is also going to be available to residents and businesses to also participate in.
Yeah,
So
I think
that's
they're
another way to
advertising
achieve it.
that now.
Mhm.
Yeah. So residences can, residential homes and can take advantage of the same thing. And then so those are the three ways to approach Ready for 100, to accomplish Ready for 100.
Yes, we would need to see the utilities' renewable energy portfolio greatly expand though, because even the amount that they're building for these systems is still just small percentages of the overall
Yeah.
energy that they take in and then produce.
Right.
So I think maybe some of what you're maybe asking, and just correct me, is why do this if we already have green print?
Somewhat. And a policy that's at first, from the city manager, a first step. I mean, I admire the ambitious nature of the goals, but I don't know if it's truly achievable.
Yeah, that was what my
That-
concern is too, yeah. Is
To-
passing
to
something on
say we're
that-
going to do something,
that we
I
can't
want to
do.
know
Yeah,
we're able
exactly.
to accomplish it. Yes, maybe we can rely on improvements in technology and other, systems.
Yeah, that was.
Energy and
I
store
shared-
energy.
Yeah, I shared similar concerns, and, but I do agree with the idea that this is another, this is an added, I guess it's something to add to green print in a way. But again, I think, like you said, we just want to make sure it's something that we can accomplish, and that it's something that we can achieve, that if we put this forward to city council, we would want them to pass it and not to overlook it. And that's what I want to make sure that we kind of vet that.
I wouldn't feel comfortable going before the city council to present this and answer the questions.
Yeah.
Unless I had Sheridan there and Brian there
Yeah.
as part of our team.
Sure.
But,
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that we are an advisory board, that we make suggestions and we can provide input, and that we are relied upon to provide input. And that in light of the fact of the way our world is and what our neighbor cities have done, that we at least should be on par with our neighbor cities, and that we could advise the council that based on our research and our thoughts and the world, that this is what we would recommend that Clearwater do.
And just to share some feedback that I've had from other municipalities that have been there, it's very much what you guys are both saying. Like many other goals in Greenprint, it's a goal to journey towards and to consistently track how am I doing with this. It makes a statement, like you said with the other municipalities. Some feedback, and it's I think what the Sierra Club is helping with now is just some of it is unknown of how we are going to achieve it. Based on what available technologies will happen, what world events will happen, as we've seen in the last few months, and where will the utility provider meet us, and how will they meet us on this journey. So I think it depends on the municipality and how comfortable we just are with making a statement that we're going to track without knowing exactly how we're going to get there at this moment in time.
Blind faith in science.
No, it's a fluid situation. Yeah, I mean, science, that there's new technologies coming up all the time, and then we're getting better and better at the technologies that we have. I think that this is a statement of just goals. It's a resolution. It's not an ordinance. It's not, but it's saying this is what we want to accomplish. And looking at the UN studies and the UN resolutions, this would be in keeping with that. Climate change is becoming more and more a concern and an existential threat, and I think that everyone's becoming aware of. And this is just a little more aspirational, I think, than Green Print 2.0. It's like we said at the time. I said at the time I'd like to see this at 100%, instead of 80%. This would just say that. This just adds, this was just said this. We would like it to be a little bit more aspirational.
And I think if you're clear that it's just on electricity, because
Yeah.
that 80% covers multiple sectors, electricity, transportation, solid waste, and everything.
Right.
So it's a little more of conversation to achieve. If you concentrate just on electricity, it might be easier. So.
Yeah, I agree as far as it is very aspirational and it is very much a statement. And I think that is very much the point why the other communities also passed this. I believe when Pinellas County passed, they said the same thing, said it was aspirational and they don't
Right.
the technology right now doesn't really make it achievable. But I think what we've learned, and we've learned this through updating Green Print, is that technology changed. It was a large wave of change from the time Green Print was passed to the time that Sheridan's updated it, and that some of the achievables were closer to achieving because natural changes and things just from the energy companies changing how they produce energy and provide it to the city, and so we were able to make some of the goals easier to get to just through course of time. I don't know that none of us can look into a crystal ball and say, well, will that continue for the next 25 years, or was this just a unique set of time that saw these leaps and bounds? I think if we look over time, technology has shown that it does improve exponentially, and I think we could expect that would continue. I don't know that it would be 100% within that time, but again, I think that with it, the goal of this is really it is to make a statement, and it is aspirational to let the community know that we're trying to do something. I do think that the way we've tried to tailor this just in terms of the energy consumed
Electricity.
kind of allays some of my concerns, but I do agree still with what John says in terms of when we move something forward, even as an advisory board, we want to move it forward to make sure that it's something that it can be achieved, and that when we advise council on something, that it's something that they're going to follow through on. And I want to make sure that this is something that they'll follow through on. So, yeah, please come forward.
I'd like to make a motion
Yeah.
that we approve this. And that's based on, American ingenuity, reliance on, the
All right.
universities and, just entrepreneurial spirit that this country has had to
Certainly.
make these things happen. I don't know if I'll live, maybe if I live to be 100, I might see it by 2050. I'll be 99 then.
I hope you're able to.
That's my aspiration.
There you go.
Joint
I'd like to
interest.
make just one change in this, just to, because we talked about, there's no, in the paragraph, 3 paragraphs from the bottom, it says the city directs the Sustainability and Resiliency Coordinator to incorporate the clean energy targets into Green Print 2.0. I think rather than saying a Sustainability and Resiliency Action Plan, that maybe we want to designate Green Print 2.0 in this document as the Clearwater. So this would be a friendly amendment, I'm suggesting, to your motion.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Glenn, because I wanted to ask Sheridan about that line specifically. It is, third to last graph on the resolution, where it says the clean energy targets into the Sustainability and Resiliency Action Plan. Is that the same thing as saying Green Print, or should we more specifically say Green Print?
So we don't have a sustainability and resilience action plan.
So we should say Green
Yeah,
Print.
I think what Green Print 2.0 calls for is in the future from a vulnerability analysis to create a climate action plan, which would have both sustainability and resilience in it. I will say would have to check with legal to make sure that, because Green Print 2.0 in its original form was approved by council by resolution, that we could add something to it after the fact. However, if they're approving this by resolution, that might enable that to happen. So
Sure.
we just have to
Yeah,
check
makes
with them.
sense. Okay,
So what is the change?
the change would be from that to Green Print 2.0. or Green Print.
The change would be in the third paragraph from the bottom, where it says the city directs the Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator. Are you looking at it? No. Well, can I show you afterwards? Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, those changes, and then where it says county and countywide to city and citywide.
Yeah,
I think we
exactly,
already
yeah.
noted those,
Yes.
so. Okay, so we have a motion to approve citing those changes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Could-
Anything else, John?
Just on the way that's worded, I think, we may be creating a problem by amending Green Print 2.0. Is there a way to word that line a little differently? The city directs the coordinator to,
Incorporate, okay.
rather than incorporate, to,
Supplement?
or follow the clean energy targets in Green Print 2.0, something of that nature.
What are you trying to avoid?
So the
Yes.
word incorporate basically could be perceived to be requiring an amendment of Green Print.
I think it would require an amendment to Green Print. These are a little different energy targets.
Well, maybe it's not,
I think, than for Green Print. This is a little different.
city directs the coordinator to, I think,
You're getting your steps.
You might be able to just simply say that you direct the Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator to implement whatever is laid out in this. It may be worthwhile to go back and add it to Green Prints, but if it's passed by a resolution, we'll hold it as like a thing that we're going to follow, a priority. And in future editions of Green Print or whatever Clearwater Climate Action Plan we create, that would be listed as what the city is pursuing.
all right,
Is that,
so,
so it's up to you all to determine if you want it amended into Green Prints. Or it could be simply that the resolution directs the sustainability coordinator to implement the
These green energy targets?
the targets laid out in this resolution or something.
Yeah. So the sentence would read, the city directs the Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator, to implement the clean energy targets into the Green Print 2.0.
Into Green Print 2.0.
Plan.
yeah.
No plan.
so, let me get that. To implement the green into.
Green Print 2.0, yeah, sorry, I had another.
Maybe rather than into or with Green Print 2, rather than into.
Sure,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
fine.
So it would read,
One
the
good
city
preposition
directs,
deserves another.
the city directs the Sustainability Resiliency Coordinator to implement these clean energy targets with Green Print 2.0.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion with the changes.
So amended.
Okay, okay. And then,
Seconded?
Okay, we have
I
our.
seconded.
Okay. Okay, let me see here. Oh, yeah, we don't have any other comments. Do we have any, all in favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no opposed? Okay, we approve it unanimously then.
So what are the next steps? I'll tell you what these changes are, then, okay, then you'll make those changes. And then the cover letter stands as it is?
When I initially read it, I thought it was fine.
Okay.
John?
Aye.
Glenna?
Yeah, fine with me.
Yeah.
And then how does it make its way to council?
So send me the updated version, and then I'm gonna send it to Rosemary Call, who will send it on to the council.
Okay. And then they'll decide if and when they want to look at it.
We'll get it on the
Yeah,
agenda.
I think once it goes to her and you say it's for the council, like, she forwards it on. Like, they'll decide if an action will occur, but they will get it.
Okay.
And then you can let us know when that would be before council, so that if we wanted to
Right.
come show up to,
Yeah, if somebody wants to bring it forward, then, yeah,
Okay.
I'll find out about it, yeah.
Okay, I know it's my time. I still have more stuff to talk about.
oh, okay.
So a couple of things have come up in the news lately, and I was hoping that Mr. Jennings would be here because I wanted to talk about it. One thing was about a panel Mayor Hibbard was on, about the mayor's response to resiliency, and he talked a lot about transportation, and I just wanted to include that in our conversation, how we can be of service to them. Another article that came up was February 1st in the Tampa Bay Times that Florida gets $404 million for climate change prep. And then it lists out who got all of this. And locally, the Gulfport, Treasure Island, Pinellas County Utilities, they all got money. And I'm just wondering, what did Clearwater do? Did we ask for anything? Did we get anything?
We applied for several grants, and we did not get the grants, but we applied for them.
Okay, this is what I'm talking
Yep.
out of this?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Did you get grant money? No, I didn't either. You submitted one project, I submitted two projects, and neither got money, so.
Okay. And there were just a couple other articles that I had sent to Sarah that, as I said, if Mr. Jennings was here, we could talk about it, because there was an article about billions needed for climate change. And some of these articles speak to the tension between the fact that a lot of Clearwater shoreline is owned privately, and that's where a lot of the change has to be made. And I just thought it was a worthy conversation with Mr. Jennings, but he's not here, so. Oh, and I wanted to call out Liz Dreyer. She had an offer to buy a free tree for anybody, and I just thought that was a very worthwhile citizen initiative. It was fun.
It was very good
Note her
for
on
the
that.
offer that.
And my last is a question. We have a mission statement, right? The EAB has a mission statement?
We have a objective,
Which the other councils don't have?
right, which other boards
And
don't.
do we have that? Is it on the agenda? Is it in the minutes? Is it?
It's, yeah, sort of,
'Cause I was
I
looking
read
for
it,
it and I
yeah, I
couldn't
read it
find
like
it.
every,
Can I make a request then that this be put on every agenda? What the members of
the
the EAB were
board's
part of
objective
it?
is to provide citizen insight to the city council and
Yeah.
staff on environmental activities within and affecting the city of Clearwater.
Yep.
Yeah, that's our objective, I guess.
Right, yeah. Yeah, when I was writing all this up, I wanted to include it and I couldn't find it.
Oh,
So-
yeah, oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, I guess we can make that more, promote our objective more.
Yeah, just make it common knowledge.
I had a hard time finding it on the website once too. I was like, so I wouldn't mind having it in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Right.
I'm lucky I have that in front of me
All right, we're
anytime.
done. I'm done.
All right, thank you very
In
much,
front of you,
Marita.
Jared.
Yeah, I will say, just to add to your comment about but seawall building, I was reading about some new construction ideas and technologies for building that, and how our coastal communities have additional challenges to meet some of those goals. All right, Glenna?
I have some announcements. They, still Earth Month. The virtual event that was Monday night, we do have a recording of it, and I just sent it all to all of you. If you want to tune in and see it, if you missed it on Monday, the mayor spoke, and Sheridan, our very own. And it was really pretty interesting. It was an hour and a half, and so you might check it out. There's a portion of it I missed the first half an hour myself, so it's like couldn't get back from my bicycle ride. So anyway, I'll be checking it out. There's an Earth Day celebration on Saturday at Moccasin Lake Nature Park. It's going to be on Saturday the 23rd from 10 to 2. It's really going to be great for families and children, with educational presentations, children's arts and crafts, music, vendors, food, and fun. And one I think that hasn't gotten a lot of And a third one I just wanted to mention is on Sunday at 2 o'clock is going to be an Earth Day / prayer service and call to action that's hosted by Pinellas County Interfaith Environmental Coalition. It's going to be at Trinity Presbyterian Church this Sunday, the 24th at 2 o'clock, which is at 2001 Rainbow Drive in Clearwater. In terms of concerns that I have, or comments or whatever, just an update on that bill, that net metering bill should be hitting the governor's desk any day now. It's House Bill 741. If you have not called or written the governor, you might do so. That net metering bill, House Bill 741, is essentially going to gut the solar industry in Florida, and it's going to kill jobs, and it's basically it's going to hurt and disincentivize solar. So increase rates, and basically it's unfair to solar owners. So anyway, it's a critical bill, and it's a possibility. I have no idea what the possibilities are for him not to sign it, but to veto it, but it would be great if that happened. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. John?
I don't know, Sarah, did you forward the information that I got from Swift Mud about the seagrass beds adjacent to Coachman Park to the committee?
I did, yeah, I will.
That was a month or so ago.
Okay.
But, all right, I'll pass it along. But
What'd you find out?
what we found out is, this is from Dr. Anastasiou at Swift Mud. He says, with respect to the condition of the seagrass beds, our maps only provide an estimate of spatial extent. In other words, the dark green polygons that I'll pass around represent areas where the photographic signature is that of a continuous seagrass menu greater than 25% cover. The light green represents patchy seagrass less than 25% cover. To determine the condition of the grass, one would have to get in the water and examine the beds up close. While we do a considerable amount of field verification, unfortunately, they did not collect field data in this area. You referred me to a fellow at the county who confirmed they didn't have any data either.
Okay.
So, I contacted Councilwoman Beckman, who represents, I guess, the city on the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, and she has provided me a list of consultants and potentially government folks who could do this actual field investigation of the seagrass beds, which is essential to basically document its present condition. You know, just like they surveyed the location of all the trees on the Imagine Clearwater site, and now have protective radii or barriers around them. But that data is essential, I think, to understanding the beds. And
So when they come out with their seagrass bed, that's just an estimate. They haven't done actually any field work on
they
it.
do this, a lot of it, they do by aerial photography, and they can tell where the beds are by photo interpretation, and they're pretty skilled at it.
Yeah.
And then there's some field verification in different areas. They can't do every square foot of the coastline where we do have beds. So that's
that makes sense.
That's the most efficient way to undertake the work. What I don't know is how the city could go about procuring those services, or whether we send a note to the city council recommending that that survey be done, or whether we have budgets in the project. Imagine Clearwater for undertaking that work, but that's one of the first steps, is just documenting the existing conditions. The other part of, I had indicated that I would try to put together a memorandum or a letter, but I don't have all the information yet. I've been working my way up the chain with the Coast Guard, starting with the office on Sand Key, bounced to St. Pete, now I'm at Davis Island, And none of the folks I've talked to can give me any advice on how we would go about putting in mooring restrictions. It's similar to, the kind of buoys that you have along the beach, but it requires Coast Guard or somebody to move forward with that. So I think one of the next things is to consult with our Marine Advisory Board, and their office right now is smack in the middle of the area that we're concerned about, and see if they can move this along as well and get their advice. I had discussions with Mr. Chesney when he was the director of the program, but have not, I don't know if that position's been filled as yet.
It has.
All right, it's time to speak to the new person there as well. But it's clear, we have viable seagrass beds there. We should do what's necessary to protect them. It's a valuable resource.
I will say, I was out boating in that area, and I noticed that there is an extensive no-wake zone all throughout there.
Yeah.
So just to note that. And also in terms of discussions with the Marine Advisory Board, moving forward with a no-wake zone along Stevenson Creek. I think that was brought up to us before. I think it's been brought up in the past. I've heard it brought up to City Council. I don't know if that's something they're pursuing at City Council, but I think that's something that, from an environmental standpoint, that we could look at pursuing as well, or making sure that that's going on.
So I will coordinate with Sarah for your guidance and advice
something
on
needs to
how
come
move.
from you guys and
Right.
go to the city council. Like, I can't do anything without a directive, as far as a consultant, a survey, or anything, so
So you'll keep digging along, and
you'll need
Okay.
to, so at the next meeting, if you wanna have something
we'll have
drafted to
something
give
more
to the city
actionable
council,
for
that's.
our July meeting.
All right. All right.
Anything
And
else,
the
Rob?
other thing I've been trying to move forward, one item in green print, and that was a community garden, and it's in search of a nonprofit corporation that would be the applicant and basically one of the stewards of the garden, and have done some work with the group at the Martin Luther King's Community Center up on Douglas Avenue, and we have some ideas on what could be done with the site and plans, and I think we have a meeting scheduled in early May with the community center that initially we didn't get the most positive feedback because of the administrative responsibilities that may come along with being the grant recipient and responsible for disbursement of funds through contractors and all, as well as potential liabilities. So we're going to have to try to work that through. So another project in the works. It was one item in green print that I thought I might be able to add in advance.
Yeah. All right, well, good luck with that. I think that's a great initiative. Anything else?
No.
All right. I guess we'll move on to things I have for today. I sent out a letter. This was my homework from our last meeting in terms of the super boat races off our beach during sea turtle nesting season. And we sent that letter out. I wasn't sure if we have anything to add or change, or what our thoughts are on pursuing moving this forward to our city leaders as well. So, like I said, I sent this letter out to everyone. I'll just kind of open it up to the board for any discussion. I do have some more info if anyone has some other questions about things, but hopefully I have the notes written down if there are questions that I'll have an answer to. But
I think it's great.
thank you very much, Doreen.
Yeah, it looks great to me. I'm just glad you're asking for it to be outside, to be moved outside of turtle nesting season.
Yeah, I wanted us to do something, but again, like, just want to make sure it's something that we can achieve. And this is a very popular event, so I know that the chips are stacked against us. But I wanted our board at least to go on record to do or say something regarding this. It's a very interesting juxtaposition for our city to have this going on at that time, and considering the importance some of our other partners with the city play environmentally and for the animals that are here in the area. So if we all like this, then I don't know, do we, I guess, need a motion to move it forward as well?
I'll move we send this letter as drafted by our chairman to the city council
Second,
and city manager.
still second.
Thank you, thank you. All opposed, or all in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed? None opposed, it passes unanimously, and we'll move that on to city leaders then. Do you have a copy of it I can give to you, or we can email it to you, Pat?
Yeah.
I just need it, okay.
I just,
okay.
yeah, if you have
I
any
didn't know for the
changes
minutes.
to make to it, otherwise I'll send that one to Rose as well.
All right, yeah, I can resend the same one, or we can, okay, great, thank you, everyone, that's wonderful. I do have a couple other things in other business before we adjourn. I do want to bring up, Lake Bellevue was reopened, the park and the area near there. I think that the members of the community came to speak to us, and we had drafted a letter in support of a water management plan. I think we have field trips that we should be going on in the community. There's, so I would suggest maybe going out to do a tour of Lake Bellevue in the future. I don't know if that'll be our next one, or I know we've talked about other water plants or other facilities, but I know that this was, like I said, it was just a couple of weeks ago that it had reopened, and just wanted to put that out there.
Park down the street from there.
Yeah, it's a park right near there, yeah. But Lake Bellevue, I think, is the main, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the other side of the street,
Oh, okay.
down closer to Bel Air.
Oh, it's not around, it's not the park surrounding the lake? That's what I thought it was. Ed Wright Park? Well, that's right next to the park. That's right next to it, though.
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
parked down the street.
No, it,
Ed Wright is next to the water. Oh, right, yeah. They just reopened a park that's farther down the street.
Belmont Field. So Belmont Field was the one that was
Yeah.
redone. It's not on the lake.
Not on the lake. Oh, okay.
Still worth, could be worthwhile.
All right. Well, I still stand by my comments. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was the pesticides. We talked about the pesticides used by the city. If we can figure out however we can meet with the people that can help us move forward with something on that. And I also was hopeful that our city manager would be at our meeting, hopefully in July, because I think something that had come up and we talked about and last year to the city council was increasing our meeting times and frequency, and that was something that we needed to have directed by the city manager. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward on that at a future meeting as well.
And I did get the guard tonight so that you could run over it.
Well, we hope we don't.
I know
Thank
you
you.
won't, but I would do it from now on.
Oh, okay.
In case you have, so you don't have to worry about having it.
Thank you very much, but I.
Yes.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, so, but with that, I will, those were the only other kind of business type things. Everything else I have to share are events, because this is such a Earth-centric month. There's an Earth Day cleanup on Friday from 4 to 7 at Pier 60, and then I know there's a handful of other cleanups all throughout the city and the county, but my neighborhood association has a cleanup on Saturday as well, if anyone wants to join us. We will have plenty of trash to pick up, and that's at State Street Park from 9 to 11 on Friday. We have, the city has the Arbor Day tree giveaway, which is, I said before, one of my favorite days of the year, and that's from 8 to 1 at the Joe DiMaggio Complex on Drew Street. And Glenna shared about the Earth Day celebration at Moccasin Lake Park. That's from 10 to 2 at the park. And then the April 30th, there's the Shred-a-thon and Old Medicine Take Back if you have that stuff to get rid of. And that's at Countryside Mall. And then I also encourage everyone, if they haven't seen it, to come to the library here at the main library and check out the Clyde Butcher exhibit. That'll be up until the end of May. So
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
those are gorgeous photos to see. And with that, I will,
Yes, one more thing.
sure, one more thing.
Yes, Sarah, I just wanted to go back to something you said earlier about the agenda, that you need a 1-month lead time. Would it be possible for you to give us a heads up 5 weeks before, so we know?
I will try my very hardest to send an email before I get the, you gotta do it now, email. I will try my best.
I'll put it on my calendar too.
Yeah, to
Five-
be like,
5 weeks
hey,
ahead,
guys,
You need to have.
let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.